everyone to Ultra Tech channel, which I've taken over today. Ultra Tech's producing the show, but I thought I'd jump on here as it's been a while. So good to see everybody here. Make sure you hit a like and feel free to comment at any point or ask any questions, and I'll do my best to cover them. So I think today what we're going to focus on is first Yarde against Beterbiev or Beterbiev against Yarde. I mean, incredible fight last night. I thought it was one of the best fights I've seen uh, on UK soil in some time. I thought it was really high level boxing. I thought it was an incredible sort of fight, and it's going to be hard to find a fight of the year contender after this, but let's see what the next 11 months brings. So, starting off, I guess, with the promotion of the show. Uh, Everybody I spoke to in boxing kind of felt like this was going to be a good fight, and we've got some really high level fighter coming to the UK, fighting against the UK opponent that deserves to be there in the ring. It's no Lee Purdy against Devon Alexander or what other crap we've witnessed over the last few years where there's been these dare to be great fights. So I think Yard deserved to be there. That's sort of widely accepted. Beterbiev has been a champion since 2017, I think. So he's fought against Callum Smith, Callum Johnson, others. We'll get to Callum Smith later. So I think we've got really sort of high level foreign fighter coming on UK soil, fighting against a UK contender that legitimately should be there and has fought previously at a high level. So obviously Yarde had lost to Kovalev in the past, and he'd also lost to Lyndon Arthur. So all that considering, I think this was a fight that probably deserved more hype than it got. And I think BT, they promoted it a bit on their platform. I think the YouTube community as such, so the YouTubers, IFL and others, I think this sort of flew a bit under the radar as it was so close to Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Beefy Smith, which I think from a casual perspective is probably a bigger fight. Like more casuals care about Chris Eubank Jr., Mr. Next Gen, 33 years old, next gen. Guess it gives us all hope that we can be the next gens at that age. So I think it flew under the radar compared to that fight. And I don't know if everybody else agrees in the comments. Let us know if you thought the promotion was actually as good and it captured people's imagination. But props to Queensberry and Frank Warren for actually putting this fight on UK soil. Although I don't think there's much fighting happening in Russia at the moment, but well, not in the ring at least. So there wasn't as much hype as I think as there should be, and I think when I spoke to casual mates, none of them really knew that this fight was happening, and it's a real shame because it was such a good fight that I think everybody should have watched it and they would have fallen in love with boxing again. Uh, so we get to the fight night. I think the weigh-in happens. Yarde's looking confident and good. I think Beterbiev really hard to gauge. I think one of the challenges with Beterbiev as to promote him is that his English isn't that good, and he's not the most engaging of guys, right? So I think there's Shevin there. Oh God, Shevin. Riku out here like he just left the audition for Malcolm X Part 2. I don't know, could I take over Denzel's role? I think Denzel did that role really well. What's the film called? Is it called Malcolm X? Yeah, it's called Malcolm X. For some reason I thought it's called Red. But yeah, good film by the way. Very old. On Netflix. I'm surprised it's not cancelled on Netflix, but that's a separate topic. Anyways, back to Yarde against Beterbiev. So I think the promotion for the fight flopped a bit, but fight night, Yarde looked confident. And how I saw the fight is, I thought it was like really, it was very high level boxing from Yarde. So often we say that Yarde hasn't been a good boxer, he's a bit crude. He does these weird shoulder rolls and other things, and he's not really, he's one of these guys that he bullies other people and I think there was a big improvement from the art of fights in terms of Yarde's technique and what he was trying to do. Beterbiev's a very well-schooled amateur. He's a very good boxer, but I think you could see pretty early on that Beterbiev was sort of applying pressure in a very good way, although he was on the back foot. And the fight was fought at a very high tempo, and what that meant is essentially we all thought that Yarde's going to run out of gas at some point. I think Yarde actually coming forward most of the time in the fight, applying the pressure probably helped him because he was quite loose. Whereas I always feel that Yarde, when he's on the ropes or he's fighting going backwards, he's quite tense and he uses up energy. But there was some really heavy leather traded. I'm not sure I really agreed with the scorecards. So I know the scorecards, I think two of them had Yarde up and one had Beterbiev up. I think although Yarde had some flashy shots, I think towards the end of each round, Beterbiev sort of won the last exchanges and was just nicking the rounds. But I don't think the scorecards really mattered at that point. I don't know what others people think. I don't think the scorecards. I don't think the scorecards reflected the fight I saw. But I think it was never going to go to the scorecards, to be honest. So I think it was excellent fight at a very high level. And thanks, Ultra, for putting the scorecards on the screen. So we can see here that, let me just have a look here. Yeah. You know what? I'm not sure it matters. I'm not sure it matters that much, but I think we can say with confidence that I think Beterbiev was sort of on top. And I don't think Yarde and somebody, Eric, I never thought Yarde was a bad boxer, always being his gas tank. Yeah, I think the thing about Yarde is I'll come to your question, Dennis Baktov, a journeyman. So I don't think Yarde is a bad boxer, but I don't think he's, Beterbiev is a much better boxer. Yarde is fairly unorthodox as a boxer. I think his style, we haven't seen him in very high level fights. So I think the narrative going into the Arthur fight and, when he lost the first Arthur fight was that he doesn't use his jab enough. He's not a conventional boxer. So a lot of the stuff he does looks good and is effective, but you're never going to outbox a really good fighter doing that. And Lyndon Arthur, I mean, I'm not going to be critical about him, but he's a fairly basic boxer, isn't he? What Lyndon Arthur does is basic stuff, and Yarde never had those tools, I think, to be able to negate the basic stuff. And Dennis Baktov does Yarde still have a gas tank issue? I think the pace of the fight was so high that I think any fighter at that level would have, essentially been not been able to cope. So Beterbiev, I think what he did is he was just really effective with his punches. He didn't waste many punches. He was throwing hurtful shots. We're talking about one of the hardest punches pound for pound here, Beterbiev, essentially. There's no way in hell that any fighter, I think, in the division could have coped at that pace and could have won 12 rounds. Even Bivol, I don't think Bivol would have stood a chance against Beterbiev. And we'll get to the Liverpool crowd's comments a bit later on this. But I think what he was doing, yeah, Craig Richards, you know what? I think very different fight, right? I think Yarde was the one that pushed the pace. Beterbiev was comfortable with the pace, I mean, to some degree. But Yarde was also throwing hurtful shots. The one thing I would say about Yarde is that if Yarde had more single punch power and he could take you out with one punch, it would have been, I think he could have won the fight. But Yarde is a sort of a volume type puncher. So a lot of his stoppages come from a flurry of punches, right? Coming at you, beating you on the ropes. I mean, that's what we've seen from Yarde. So it's not going to be a single shot. And Yarde had a lot of single shots, a lot of success with, a left hook, I thought, throughout the fight. He was definitely trying the uppercut quite a few times, so which didn't really work. But he had Beterbiev hurt a few times. But Beterbiev is, Callum Johnson had him down, I think, in their fight pretty early, but he had really good recovery power. But I think it was a combination of the pace, um, and it was also a combination of that sort of systematic breakdown of Beterbiev. Um, and I also think Beterbiev was making Yarde work hard. Although Yarde was pushing the pace, it wasn't like he was just coming forward and allowing him to, leaning on the ropes and relaxing. Yeah, I know Beterbiev's 40 years old. I mean, this is the thing, right? I saw somewhere that 2017 was the year when Beterbiev and Bivol both became world champions, and they still haven't unified, which is crazy, right? We're never going to see these fights. So I think a lot of credit goes to Yarde, and I think I'd love to see him fight against any of the champions. I think he's deserved of that. The other thing I think we should give credit to Tunde Ajayi, Sir Tunde Ajayi. I think he'll be on the New Year's honours list after that. Potentially, sort of Prince, what do you call it? King Charles's first royal decree should be to give Tunde a, Sir moniker. Sir Tunde Ajayi, I mean, that would be something else, right? He'd definitely make Coogan and others call him Sir. That's a fact. So, back to the matter at hand. Yarde, I think, has improved a lot since the Lyndon Arthur fight, and I think he's improved a lot since the Kovalev fight. I think that version of Yarde would have given Kovalev even more trouble, and he was better equipped. So I think a lot of people obviously said after the Kovalev fight and the Lyndon Arthur fight that Yarde needs to leave Tunde Ajayi. Yarde needs to find another trainer. Tunde Ajayi is a terrible trainer. And when we're looking at this performance, I think it's fair to say that Yarde has improved and leaving wasn't going to be. I don't think any other coach would have changed the outcome of the fight. Yeah, that's it. And Joe has a comment here. So Joe's saying Eric Harris, WBC won't sanction Russian fighters who fight in title fights and cross promotional disputes. Fights are happening. Yeah, I mean, look, who knows what the WBC will do? I think if you put enough money in front of them, they'll do whatever. But yeah, I think it's a tricky one, right? I think so. If we're looking here, yeah, but isn't Bivol Russian anyway? So I don't know. I mean, Joe, tell us if it's different. Isn't Bivol Russian, right? So surely a Russian can fight against a Russian, unless Beterbiev is. Beterbiev's Canadian, isn't it? Technically, is Canadian, right? So, but yeah, I mean, it's firstly, I think it's nonsense if a Russian fighter can't fight for a title because their country is at war. But we're not going to be political here. But it's not Bivol's fault or Beterbiev's fault that their country is in a war. So I don't think it would be very strange if they were being prohibited from fighting. But yeah, yeah. Please hit the like button, everybody, and let us know what people thought about the promotion and if people thought that Tunde Ajayi deserves more credit. Do I think that this Yarde would have had beat Kovalev? M.A. Khan is asking. I think, yeah. Look, that Kovalev went into fighting Canelo afterwards, and I think that version of Yarde, with less experience, had Kovalev sort of hurt in the fight and was looking pretty good. So I personally don't think that Kovalev would have beaten this version of Yarde. But, I think there's lots more fights for Yarde to be had. And I think Tunde did the right thing pulling him out in the end. It's only going to go one way. There was no, he would have been knocked out cold. So I think it's probably good to save him for another day. Where's Ultra Snazzy Azzy asking? Ultra's producing the show. He's handed the reins over. Shout outs to Ultra. Okay. What would have Ward done against the prime Beterbiev? Dennis Bachtov is asking. Ward, I don't think is a natural, a prime Prime Ward, Prime Beterbiev. Prime Ward is a Ward at 168 and 175, and that's before the shoulder surgery. I don't know. I think it will be an interesting fight, but I think 9 times out of 10, a Ward will beat sort of one of these heavy punchers, and potentially, and especially one of these more conventional style boxers like Beterbiev. So Beterbiev isn't, he boxes in a very conventional way. He's a very hard puncher, and I think that's the stuff that Ward is particularly good at. I think if somebody was more unorthodox and was a heavy puncher, that would pose more problems. So I think somebody like a prime Adonis Stevenson against Ward would probably be a bigger challenge, in my opinion, than Beterbiev. Jason, Yarde should reduce his muscle mass by 20%. I mean, where's this 20% number come from? I mean, I have no idea. I mean, look, Yarde fought well. He fought a very high level against one of the best fighters, pound for pound, hardest punchers in the world, and arguably like one of the best champions there is. So I don't think we should say he should reduce his muscle mass, because I don't think that would change the outcome if he had less. I mean, Yarde fought really well. What did we think about the undercard? I think the undercard was not great as usual, but look, I didn't watch the full undercard, full disclosure. But when I was looking at the undercard, it wasn't particularly appetizing. But I don't mind it. It wasn't a pay-per-view show, so the fight started at a decent time. Unlike Beefy Smith versus, there we are. That's what the undercard is. Shit. Yeah. So this fight started at a decent time. I think it's around 10:30 or so, 10:30, 10:15. I can't remember exactly. Whereas last weekend when we had the pay-per-view card of Chris Eubank Jr., aka Next Gen, versus Beefy Smith, that started at like 11:30, the main event, which was terrible, absolutely terrible. Because how can you grow sports when you showing these fights at 11:30? So that was terrible, yeah. Whereas this one, I think, was a lot better timing wise, and also it means that you don't really have to care about the undercard as much, because you're not going to be staying there up for hours waiting for something to happen. Okay, Moses Ituma's opponent, yeah. I mean, what was he, 39 seconds, or how quickly did he knock him out? Yeah, that's it. That's what you call a padded record when he's 14, yeah. Yeah, that's for 39 seconds, including the ring walks. So let's move on to YouTubers talking about Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, and that being sort of promoted heavily. Yeah, so I find that one quite interesting, because I don't think the audience that tune in for Yarde against Beterbiev is the same audience that are going to be tuning in for Tommy Fury against Jake Paul. And I personally think, the ship has partly sailed on that one. Like, I couldn't really care less. I mean, does anybody care about Tommy Fury as a boxer? I mean, make sure you like this show, but also write in the comment. Does anybody care about Tommy Fury as a boxer, right? I don't care about his boxing career. So for me, this is, in essence, after Love Island, right? He's not been a serious boxer. This is two YouTubers fighting. So this is like completely separate. This is something like a misfit fight rather than anything to do with boxing. Anthony M says Jake Paul is going to KO Tommy Fury. I agree. You know why? I think actually, I'm not going to start speculating too much on YouTube boxing, but I think the time that Jake Paul has been as a professional and the training he's put in would probably supersede what Tommy Fury has done throughout his career and in the last few years. So I think Jake Paul has been more professional as a boxer for a longer time, a professional boxer, than Jake Paul has been than Tommy Fury. We've got Josh Denzel, another Love Island guy there, interviewing, being in the middle of them. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they made this pay-per-view. I reckon they'll make this pay-per-view in the UK. I reckon they'll charge like 10 quid to watch this. Write in the comments if you would pay 10 quid to watch this fight. I definitely wouldn't. I think this whole YouTube thing's quite interesting, isn't it? You've got the Zone promotes doing this deal with Misfits and they're promoting that heavily. So it came up on my social media the other day that they've got this Misfit card. I was looking through the names of all the people on these cards, and I swear I didn't know any single one of them. I have no idea who these people were. And it's YouTube taking over boxing. YouTubers taking over boxing. So um, I think so. I think they not traditional boxing. I think they taking over in the sense that it's a different lane of stuff happening, right? It's like having WWE run side by side with Olympic wrestling. There's probably a lot of people that care about Olympic wrestling if we consider it being a bigger sport, but the same people that care about Olympic wrestling. Oh, is this? This must be the woman that was training with Mark Tubbs, right? What's it called? Yeah, I think it's her, isn't it? Her and Ebony Bridges training in the same gym and doing OnlyFans videos together. Yeah, Ellie Brooke, whatever she's called. Yeah, Ellie Brooke and Ebony Bridges doing boxing together in the same gym and then OnlyFans stuff. I mean, I guess Mark. Let's not hope Mark joins them in the showers. That would be weird. Anyways, moving on. Um, yeah, I think you're having a different sort of audiences. So the people that watch this YouTube boxing aren't the people that watch boxing. I don't think vice versa. I don't think vice versa that works. Yeah, I think they do their OnlyFans together, aren't they? I can see a lot of boxing fans actually subscribing to this. Sad if they do. I mean, if you want to watch the real stuff, don't watch Ebony Bridges. I mean, she's so annoying. Yeah, back to YouTube boxing. I think that all of these channels and platforms are realizing that it's like you're getting people that aren't your sports audience subscribing if you can have YouTube boxing on. And then on the other hand, you can also get your boxing fan. But the thing is, in YouTube boxing, right, it's a bit of that my dad beats your dad kind of mentality because you don't really have real bouts and you don't have divisions and the weight classes fluctuate but all you really care about is having who wins out of this one contest. Whereas in boxing, right, I have to invest 20 fights of someone's career. Use Moses Ituma, for example. I have to watch them for 20 times to find out if they're any good. By the 18, 20th fight, they fighting in a world title shot, or they fight against someone decent, and then they might get found out, and at that point, you've just wasted years of your life following somebody. That's not particularly good. Whereas here, you just get the answer straight away. You know, Jake Paul. We've got YouTube boxing endgame. Jake Paul versus KSI. I don't know who these other people are. Logan Paul versus Temper. Is that Tiny Temper? I have no idea. Slim versus Deji. I think Deji is like KSI's cousin or something, or brother. Slim. No idea. What happened to that Anderson Gibb guy? Does anybody know what happened to that Anderson Gibb guy that Eddie Hearn was banging on about in all these interviews? Oh, he's fighting again. Anderson Gibb's fighting again. But do you remember that period of? Do you remember that period? That period, Eddie must have spent a fortune to look half as good as Ebony. Yeah. Wow. Do you remember that period where there was these YouTube boxing shows in Miami that DAZN was doing, and Eddie Hearn was involved, and then you'd have Coogan and everybody else flying over there, right? And they would be doing these interviews and chatting about like, oh, Anderson Gibson is in good shape and yada yada yada, and they were doing this in IFL. But nobody in IFL watching it knew who these people were. Honestly, nobody knew who they were. and they were talking about them as if they were real fighters. Very, very strange. Yeah, now Eddie's Joe says now Eddie's having troubles. YouTube boxing is off his radar. I actually don't think it's the case that Eddie's having troubles. No, Eddie is having troubles, but YouTube boxing isn't off his radar. I think what the YouTube boxing crowd have realized essentially is that they don't need Eddie Hearn. They can just do their own stuff, right? If you think about Sauerland's role in this Misfit stuff, all they are doing, they're like consultants. All they're doing is bringing professional expertise on how you run a boxing show and event. You don't need Eddie or who do you call it, Kalle Sauerland to actually promote these fights or events. Like all of these guys on the cards have their own platforms, which are massively bigger than any boxing platform. So that means that they're going to promote directly to the audience. All you need them to do is to sort out stuff with, I guess, all the health and safety stuff, all the other stuff that you'd essentially do when you're running a boxing card. I mean, that's really it. You're not asking them to be there for anything else. I mean, why would he? I mean, what's Eddie going to bring that KSI isn't going to bring? If Eddie appears on IFL for half an hour video talking about the card and trying to sell it to you, what's that compared to KSI going on an Instagram live or doing a YouTube video? Well, yeah, games that you love. Yeah, Eddie's been replaced by Del Boy. I mean, Chisora was walking around there yesterday like he owned the place as he always does. Imagine if Chisora becomes like this YouTube promoter after his career. Imagine him becoming like the face, the legitimate face of YouTube boxing, the new Don King. Derek Del Boy Chisora becomes the Don King of YouTube boxing. That would be hilarious. I'd definitely be up for that. Dennis Baxter was saying that. Guess we'll find out if Eddie does less shows this year than last year. I wouldn't be surprised if some of that DAZN money that was allocated to Eddie has gone towards Misfit boxing, and what that means is then that they don't need as many shows from Eddie. Because let's be honest, nobody's subscribing to DAZN to watch some of the dross that we've had recently there, or the types of events. Like nobody's going to subscribe to watch Josh Warrington. Let's be honest about that. Oh, one more thing on the Beterbiev Yarde stuff, which I forgot to mention. So you would have all seen an Ultra knows the Liverpool lads tweeting. So we saw tweets from, I think it was Beefy Smith, and we saw tweets from Tony Bellew. Of course, Tony Bellew weighed in. Straight after the fight, they saying that Callum Smith beats Beterbiev. Callum Smith hasn't had. Here we are. Tony Bellew, styles make fights, and people are all going to shoot me down here if I'm going to say it anyway. Callum Smith knocks Beterbiev out within 6 rounds. He's too open and too easy to hit. I said he's vulnerable, and it will show when he fights Callum. Well, let's be honest here. Again, it's one of those things that Callum Smith has. The last time he fought a competitive fight was in, like against a top level opponent, was in December of 2020. I checked this, and he hasn't fought one since. And now they're just saying, yeah, drag Beterbiev in, get him to fight against Beterbiev. Why doesn't he fight against someone competitive? It's not. This is the thing that I think really annoys people about boxing is somebody fights a good fight, and then suddenly the next thing you know, everybody's straight away saying that the fighter that won is crap and somebody else will win. Win. I bet you if Callum wasn't a Scouts guy or his mate, he wouldn't be saying that, right? I mean, why doesn't Callum Smith fight against Lyndon Arthur, for example? I think that would be a really good fight. Bivol, same stable. Why doesn't he fight against Bivol? I mean, that would make sense, right? If he's such a good fighter, why not fight against Bivol? Yeah, bizarre. What do you guys think about this Callum Smith against Beterbiev? I personally don't think. Yeah, I mean, Callum Smith needs to show somebody else And we've got Terry Highfield's boxing saying, "Calm down, Stevie Wonder." That's quite funny. Yeah. And we've got both good engagement farming from Majid Freeman saying that thoughts on this. I do love a good engagement farming tweet where you sort of respond to somebody else's tweet, putting in a post, or, putting in a voting thing. It's a good engagement farming technique. Will Buatsi and Yarde ever happen? Game to love. Well, I hope so. I mean, look, Buatsi's been a pro for as long as Shakur Stevenson. He's yet to fight a world title fight. We have been told over and over again that Buatsi is the second coming and, such a skillful fighter. And I think it's a shame. I think Buatsi is actually a really nice lad. Like, he comes across as a good guy and, he comes across as somebody that you'd want to root for. But I'd love to see him, step up and fight against somebody that's world class or, fight for a world title. Because I don't know what it is, what's stopping them from making making Buatsi fight against somebody decent. He must have been a pro now for 5, 6 years. He's probably pushing towards 30. So I have no idea. I'm being honest. I have no idea. Yeah. We've got Shevin saying Callum Smith versus Beterbiev, The Undertaker versus Owen Hart. Good WWE reference. Wasn't the Royal Rumble yesterday? Yeah, and I guess Tony Bellew could be Conor Benn. Oh God, Ultras open the can of worms. Yeah, I mean, look, Conor Benn beats everyone, right? Because he's got the speed and everything else. And we've got a question: will Buatsi go to Frank? You know what? There's 258 matchroom things. A really interesting one, right? So um, we have obviously Eddie has a relationship with Joshua on his own, and you've had Ricoli leave and go onto Sky onto a different platform as a 258 fighter. So I think it's all quite interesting at the moment because I wouldn't be surprised if Buatsi was going somewhere else. Maybe Buatsi hasn't, maybe he has a dispute of some sort or his contract's coming to an end. Maybe 258 are moving their fighters away. Maybe one of the things they've realised is the zone isn't a good platform for the 258 guys. And I think Buatsi going somewhere else, if he goes to Frank, I think that would be a really good move for him. Frank, or alternatively to Boxer, but I think Frank has definitely sort of better fighters in that weight class, and he could make Buatsi against Yarde. It would be pay per view. You could make that straight away. Everybody would sign up for that. We've got you on about May. What you on about May? I think that's what his name's saying. London is better. Is a better win than Craig, and Buatsi arguably lost to Craig. Yeah, I think you know what. It's really hard with this Lyndon Arthur Yard thing. I mean, Yard, they had that one fight which he lost, and then he had another fight which he won. Obviously, Yard had a lot going on in his personal life, which they continuously remind us about on IFL, but then they don't say what's happened. They're like, "Oh, Yard had a lot going on, but let's not talk about it." But we all know, Yard had a lot of family members that passed away in a short period of time around COVID and lockdowns. So it was sort of a tough period for him. So I think personally that that wasn't the best version of Yard, and I think he's improved remarkably since that Kovalev fight. So I think Lyndon Arthur wins a good one, but again, Lyndon Arthur, what's Lyndon Arthur's aside from Yard? It will be hard to say. If Lyndon Arthur and Craig Richards fought, that would be a really interesting fight, right? I'd love that fight. I think that would be a good one. I'd like to see Lyndon Arthur against Buatsi. I think that would be an interesting one. Craig Richards, Spider's a good fighter as well. So, yeah, but I think Yard sort of top level performances are better definitely than Buatsi's. And considering the pedigree of Buatsi, Olympic bronze medalist, uh, who was tipped by many to be sort of the best fighter of that Olympic class as a pro, and he's fallen really short. So if you think about where Shakur Stevenson and others are, um, Buatsi hasn't really been pushed on, which is interesting. Okay, Conor Benn. Let's talk about Conor Benn. So many of you guys saw Robert Smith and the British Boxing Board of Control essentially have been saying that Conor Benn and his team haven't been playing ball. So there we are. So I found it hilarious that Conor Benn is tweeting and, his team are saying essentially that, oh, you'll be hearing from our lawyers, because isn't that what they're expecting them to do, right? The lawyers need to send something back, or, but this whole sort of constant insinuation about being innocent and the truth being proven and everything else. Who cares, man? He's caught. He's been caught, right? It's a strict zero liability offense. If I get caught drunken driving, right? Doesn't matter how the alcohol got into my body, you are drunk and drive at that point. Then you can try and prove that you had too many sweets that contain alcohol, or, the alcohol from the brandy peppercorn sauce wasn't cooked off, which meant that you had too much. You had 5 liters of peppercorn sauce. So that means that you have the alcohol. But again, this is the tweet, right? What's this meant to prove? Like, are people now went to essentially say, yeah, I think Conor Benn has a point? I mean, the guy can't be taken seriously. I think he shouldn't be able to fight for the next few years. I think part of this tactic, what they're doing, is dragging it out so he can sit down. He can set a suspension, then Eddie will say, oh, it's a lawyers, it's a legal thing, we can't talk about it. But Conor Benn is just ruining whatever reputation he has left here. Yeah, a 240-page dossier. I mean, send them whatever you want, but nobody's still going to believe you're innocent. I mean, who cares? Holy cows. Oh God. If Conor Benn's fighting in Saudi Arabia on a YouTuber card, then he might as well just go fully down that route. Dennis back to WBC hearing is pointless now. I mean, I think if your home country's boxing board bans you from fighting, then I don't think you should be able to fight abroad or with any other license. Otherwise, the sport is a shambles, right? If Conor Benn, if he were to get a Bieber license, for example, and then decide to use that to fight in for a WBC thing, then it would be a joke, because surely you need to honor the guideline. It can't be that you get caught doing doping, and then the next thing that happens is you essentially decide that you don't want that license and you'll fight for another license, and then that's it. Otherwise, everybody just hops. We've got Felix here. Lion Yard, a real bad man. We now take back them chat. Oh, loving it, loving it. Yard is a lion. I love that little commercial where they were saying a lion has no choice but to hunt. So definitely going to bring this lion thing. I used to tell the juniors at work that they need to turn up, show up, blow up. So we can all steal a Tundia Jai thing or two from our life. Chat GPT wrote the 240 pages. Well, it definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't Isaac Lowe that wrote that. If anybody's read his tweets, they'll know what I'm talking about. Or I hope it wasn't Isaac Lowe. And based on Conor Benn's tweets, I don't think he'd write it either. But yeah, I mean, chicken eggs, right? I mean, how many? 30, 40 chicken eggs a week? Come on. You know what? If you said this once, then what? Are they going to pay a dairy farmer to prove that Conor Benn bought these eggs? And it's ridiculous, man. This is silly. This is the thing that really undermines boxing. This kind of stuff where, I mean, if it was Big Baby Miller that would have said the same excuse, everybody would be laughing, right? Okay, let's go to a final topic and then we can do some questions. I mean, Dennis Backdom, can't believe how easy it's been for Conor Benn to avoid a BBOFC hearing. Seems crazy he can relinquish your license and the BBOFC are powerless. Well, that's the point, right? If he's without a license, nobody can test him. Nobody has jurisdiction over him. But I think if you relinquish your license with the British Boxing Board of Control, No governing body should allow you to fight until you have that matter settled. You shouldn't wait for the WBC to give you a different ruling. Kate Walker, Isaac Lowe, the Gypsy Shakespeare. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, some of the saw one he wrote. Somebody had passed away, and I remember the era that he wrote. The misspelling was so bad that it would sort of undermine the fact that he was trying to be sincere. Isaac Lowe, yeah, he's not writing any dossiers. Um, Shevin, baby Miller, ban him for life. He tried to murder AJ. Yeah, we had that, didn't we? We had that. Oh, it's a disgrace. Ban him for life. Tony Bellew was coming out, wasn't he? He was coming out and saying he should be hung and castrated like he does. Stoned, hung and castrated. That's usually the Bellew thing. But obviously, Bellew knows Conor Benn and has met him. He's a good kid. He would never do that. The same thing he said about White. Obviously, Belly has met them and they're good kids. Belly is such a good judge of character that he can tell whether they do it or not. So, finally, AJ versus Franklin. Here we are, testing more. Yeah, I mean, hasn't Eddie Hearn's tune changed? Yeah, somebody's going to die, right? Unless they catch these drug cheats. It's funny that. Funny how it's all flipped when it's Conor Benn. I don't think a matchroom fight has ever been caught, except they all have, but something happened. Still, if anybody knows where Dillian White's B sample is, email me at varda.com at varda or something like that. Anyways, AJ versus Franklin. Yeah, what do people think? Should it be pay per view? I don't think it should be. Does anybody care about Franklin? I don't. If AJ's fighting on DAZN, that will be AJ's first fight on DAZN, won't it? That will be AJ's first fight on DAZN on his new contract. They'll get AJ against Franklin. I think nobody's going to care, and it can be on DAZN, and it's going to die a death. I mean, DAZN has got a really raw deal with AJ, I'd say. All of the AJ's big fights in his career have been on Sky, and then DAZN have signed this deal, given him some sort of shares, or isn't he advising them? I'd imagine AJ in a board meeting would be interesting. Juice Room Boxing, good to be back. This show's a bit different. Yeah, Martin Butler has a point here. Shouldn't be a pay-per-view. It's a confidence builder. The fact that they've already dubbed it a confidence builder tells you all you need to know about the caliber of the opponent. It's a bit like we are, when somebody's learning on the job, right? And we've been told that we need to watch somebody learning on the job. Imagine if you go and see a musician, right? Instead of a rock musician or rock band, instead of them rehearsing somewhere in in some sort of space and playing as a band, imagine this idea that you go and watch them rehearse as a warm-up act for somebody big, and they just rehearsing and riffing and stuff like that, and that's the entertainment. And you're paying for them to learn on the job. This is the same thing. Learning on the job and confidence builder should not be on pay-per-views or shouldn't be on big sort of televised platform. I think this is an undercard fight. I don't think it should be a headliner. But let alone, I don't think it's a big fight, or it's not something that interests me personally. AJ's gone back full circle to Martin. I mean, Basingstoke Steve, you know what? We don't slander Prince Charles Martin on this channel. He's he's coming full comeback. Jermaine Franklin's training camp. Here we are. There we are. You know what? We should fight against Zumbano Love. Whatever happened to that guy? The guy got knocked out by AJ. It was like 3-0. I don't think he's fought since. That's an interesting one. Zumbano Love, AJ's first opponent. Up there with Gary Cornish, we were told this will be a tricky fight for AJ. Yeah, I think, you know what, Ultra? I think AJ versus Dillian's going to be in the summer, definitely somewhere. and they're going to play up this South London versus Watford bollocks. I'm pretty sure they're going to play that sort of card up and be chatting about how it's dangerous. And Stormzy walks out. Actually, Stormzy and AJ, right? I think that's got a bit sour. Must be the Maya Jama effect. AJ's probably made moves with Maya Jama. I don't blame him, to be honest. I absolutely don't blame him. But I think that's gone sour since. So obviously, Stormzy isn't with Maya Jama anymore, but they aren't as good pals anymore. Yeah, Tony's review says Delian should have lost to Franklin. Yeah, awful. I think here. We have it. AJ not looking past Cornish. Gary Cornish, remember 21-0, 21-0, dangerous fighter. Yeah, people were saying that this was going to be Cornish. The Braveheart theme. Okay, let's do Shevon's there. Maya Jama. Not a fan of that. Oh God, Shevon, have you got eyes or not, brother? Open your eyes, brother. Um, just follow her Instagram or this some of the Love Island stuff. Anyways, this is the Maya Jama Appreciation Society, but yeah, she's I can see why Stormzy and AJ fell out on that one. Hmm. Yeah, we can see why AJ sniped AJ sniped Stormzy on that one. Yeah, leave your comments. Was AJ fair in trying to snipe Maya Jama off Stormzy? Anyhow, let's do questions. We'll do questions for about 10 minutes and then I think that's it. We've done a good hour of chatting. Don't know how Ultra does this, right? It's quite hard just chatting on your own. It's very different. Nobody's asking questions. Shevon's saying she's a granny. I mean, Shevon, I don't think any of us are spring chickens ourselves, so let's not pretend. She's probably younger than me. She's definitely a lot younger than I am, so that's it. Anyway, any questions, any thoughts, any comments? I will wait patiently. If anybody can come up with what the 270-page dossier sent to WBC said, that would be interesting. Yeah, Shevon saying David Hay wouldn't have in the bungalow. I mean, David Hay's got two girlfriends at the moment. He's with that Uma Thurman, the Saturday's old singer. She's and then his girlfriend, who he's been with for a few years. I mean, they're on holiday together and stuff. And she was there in Costa Rica while he was still when he was commentating last week, and Uma Thurman was there with him at this stadium. I mean, David Hay's living the life. I mean, this guy is living the life. Old birds. I mean, Basingstoke Steve. I met his when I met David Hay. There we are. I met him with the girl he's with on not Uma Thurman, the other one. Her the taller one, the model. So I met him with her. She's not old. She's probably like late 20s. I mean, David's in his 40s. Uma Thurman's his age, but she looks good for her age still. Yeah. Anyhow, any questions? We've got compared to Maya Jama. Yeah, I mean, I think his girlfriend, the model is she's probably the same age as Maya Jama. Any thoughts on Eubank versus Smith? We could talk about the elbow thing. Yeah, I mean, this elbow thing's a bit nonsense, isn't it? I thought Eubank was trying to imitate Roy Jones with having the fundamentals of boxing down. I thought Eubank was on top of the fight until he got hurt, but Smith clearly knows what he was doing. But I thought Eubank, he hasn't taken boxing seriously for a few years, has he? He's been in Vegas, living it out with Dan Bilzerian, living it large. I just don't think he's really cared, right? He's there for the payday. So it's interesting. Beefy Smith, he's not a guy I'm particularly interested in as a fighter. I've never been a big Beefy Smith fan as a fighter. I think his style isn't great. Uh, I just don't think he's just below that sort of top level. And where does he go from here? Like, anytime anybody fights against Eubank, if you win, you don't get much credit for it because nobody takes Eubank Jr. If you lose like the Gale, your career's over because you've dropped so much to the level. So I think it's yeah, interesting. Yeah, I would close my curtains if Beef was fighting my living room. And the guy has no power, does he? I mean, we saw him. He obviously stopped Eubank, but generally, when you watch him against top opposition, he doesn't seem to have any power. I mean, yeah, I mean, he went straight in camp after the Benn fight fell through to cut all the weight, then went straight back into camp. I mean, we can speculate all we want, but I actually still don't think that Benn would have beaten Eubank. I think Benn is a manufactured fighter. I don't think he's particularly good. Any more questions? Yeah, Canelo played with Smith. I mean, how many matchroom fighters have been beaten by Canelo? That's interesting. Oh, I remember this. Benn laughing about. I mean, if Benn, I think it's just embarrassing. The guy's laughing and mocking him, and he's the one that got caught doing performance enhancing drugs, which meant the fight didn't happen, right? He's the guy that essentially lost himself that fight. So you can't really laugh at a guy that lost. Get Tunde Ajayi in Eubank's corner. That would be fun. What? Tiger uppercut he got by Sagat. What's Sagat? I have no idea. Anyways, any more questions? If not, here we are. Shevens, yeah. Ultra, do you want to come on for the last five?
Yeah, go on then. I'm here. Can you
Any
hear me?
comments or any thoughts? Yeah, we can hear you. Any comments or any thoughts on what I've said or?
Jesus. I'm fucking. Let me just. There's a bit of a clapback because haven't got through my thing. Why the fuck is Felix Mitchell bringing up Sagat? Is that? That's
No.
terrible out here. Listen, leave this brother alone. Brother had his career ended, yeah, by Beefy Smith. And a man
Yeah.
turning around talking about he got Tiger uppercut like Sagat coming in my channel with this nonsense. Hey, Chris Eubank Jr. just lost his brother, yeah, a couple of months ago in a very, very serious accident. And has been going through all sorts. And a man start bringing up Sagat, yeah, from Street Fighter, trying to say he got that Tiger uppercut. That's cold, man. Fuck is wrong with you, Felix Mitchell? What the fuck is wrong with you? Sorry, Riku. Carry on. Motherfucker, what's wrong with these dudes, man? Compassion, Riku. Isn't that what we're all
Yeah.
about on this channel?
Isn't this
Bit of
about?
compassion out there.
Yeah, this channel is hashtag Be Kind channel, isn't it?
Riku, just hold the show for 1 minute. Let me get my headphones. Carry on.
Yeah.
I'll drop in. I'll drop it. I'll come in for the last 10, yeah, and we'll go
All
back
right,
and
sounds
forth.
good.
Let me get my headphones. One sec.
Yeah, Dennis Bacta was saying Eddie's response when asked about Benn mocking Eubank and compared that to those ripping into AJ after Usyk. I mean, Eddie says whatever suits his agenda at that point. Let's be honest. Eddie Hearn has no consistency on what he says and how he thinks about things. It's always a bit embarrassing. I think the most embarrassing thing is there's a squad of sort of grown men that are cheerleaders and voicefully uh, defend Eddie Hearn on Twitter and social media. Shevin saying put the Pop Bison, aka Bacoli, on them. You know what? Bacoli's a hell of a fighter. I mean, the guy beat Yoka, right? So give Billy Nelson some credit. I mean, he's the new Angelo Dundee, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Game you love saying that Eddie said that Varda was a gold standard until Benn failed. Well, that was it, right? He was always saying, give him credit for putting everybody in the Varda 24/7 program.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can do, mate.
Felix, it's cool, bro. I'm only joking. Fucking hell. Come on, man. Sagat, I thought that was hilarious. Sorry, I'm on the do you know what? This is a different headset I've got. So let me guys know what you think about this headset. Typical Mrs. Ultra. I gave her this headset, of course, because she gets all my stuff secondhand. So one time I bought a 42-inch screen, and it wasn't the right screen, so I gave it to her, and then I spent £1,000 and bought another screen, and that's this screen. So she actually gets some pretty good hand-me-downs, but she's just giving me a mic, and she goes, "Would you like me to give you my microphone, aka the one you gave to me? And this mic is fucking battered." She's fucking battered it. What have you done to it? You've absolutely battered this thing. The thing doesn't even stay up. Right, let me go through this stuff here. Right. Somebody asked a question here about Martin. Sorry, can you hear it? It's going against my fucking beard. Right, let me just try and. Right. Somebody asked a question about Martin Bacola, yeah, aka M Bison. Riku, I want to get your opinion on this, yeah. Right. Can you believe, yeah? And I'm back in with Billy Nelson, who's back in on Twitter, yeah. I'll show you some tweets from this fool in a minute. But I'm back in with my friend, yeah, Billy Nelson. Can you explain to me, yeah, why fucking Billy Nelson, yeah, has allowed, yeah, a grown man, yeah, of colour to come on the screen dressed like this? Look at this. Look at his badge. Look at his hat, badge and his hat. Champion. Bacola M on the top.
Is that natural?
What is he looking like, Bacola? Bacola looks like he's about to get a drum kit out and start beating it, doesn't he? He looks like he's about to start getting a drum kit out and start marching.
I think he could be going for an extra. Do you remember that? What's that film with Nick Cannon where he's the drummer? You know the one I'm talking about, Marching Band?
No, but Shevin will know that. He knows about all these films.
Shevin will know what the film is. Let me Google it. Nick Cannon Marching Band. Film.
Jesus, that'd be Bacola coming out here. And then let me show you this full Billy Nelson.
Drumline, 2002, Drumline. That's the film. So Drumline. Maybe he's doing. Maybe he's going to be an extra. Oh, there, Shevin knew. Yeah. Maybe he'll be a Drumline too. Maybe he's an extra for that.
He's an absolute fool, this guy. Let me see if I can hook my mic up a little thing. Also, Billy Nelson. Have you seen this one? I have to say, yeah. More classics from Billy Nelson. This is a beauty. Quickly, before I move on, I'll talk about Conor Benn a bit in a minute, but I just want to get this out of the way because I know if I don't say it to you now.
Idi Amin. God.
Yeah, Idi Amin. Yeah, and that's my joke, by the way. And that joke ended up on someone else's show, and that's my joke, by the way. And that joke then later appeared on someone else's show 3 weeks later. I got tipped off by somebody about that. Somebody actually told me about that. That Idi Amin joke then appeared somewhere else. Right, hold on. Let me find out. Yeah, Billy. This is Billy Nelson.
Does that make Billy Nelson the last king of Scotland?
Listen, absolutely, mate. Wait till you see this. This is, guys, unreal. So, Deontay Wilder, yeah, has been coming out with some of these crazy tweets, right? Wilder must be smoking that hydro, yeah? He'd been talking about investing, he'd been talking about legacy and dynasties and all kinds of crazy shit, yeah? This is Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder just trying to crack on with his day, yeah? Woke up this morning with training on my mind. It's about that time. I'm ready to Deontay Wilder somebody. Hashtag bomb squad. Hashtag stay tuned. Hashtag I can feel it. This man, Billy Nelson, yeah, on his new account, yeah, turns up and says, get Martin Bacola on your mind. As if Deontay Wilder's going to wake up, yeah, and get this man on his mind, M. Bison.
I'm not sure Deontay Wilder knows what Martin Bacola is.
He don't even know who Martin Bacola is, bro.
Spotify trying to find the artist.
You don't even know who Martin Bacola is. Like, did you? It's crazy. Like, Billy, I have to speak to Billy Nelson about that when I try and get him on this show for his. Listen, if he wants it, listen. I want to do Billy's bets, right? And all I want him to do is come on, right? So all I want him to do is come on the show, and every week, yeah, all I'm going to do is open an Excel spreadsheet, yeah. I don't even know how to use Excel, but I will do an Excel spreadsheet. You can help me with it. And all I want to do with Billy is I just want to tally his bets because so far, actually, he's 2-2 this year. Billy Nelson. I've tracked him, see? He's 2-2. He predicted Beterbiev to beat Yarde. And he actually bet on... And he went for Smith over Eubank. So, Billy Nelson, somehow this year is 2 out of 2 for his bets, yeah? But you know it will never last, innit? So... You
should call him the Rain Man. You should call him the Rain Man. If you could call him the Rain Man from going forward.
If he wants it, I'm more than happy. Yeah, listen, we've got trainers that listen to this. I'm more than happy to have Billy Nelson come. He can have his own show, Billy's Bets, because people have been asking for that for a while. Because I don't bet, but people are, Ultra, what are the best odds? What would you go for? And then what better show than a betting show, Billy's Bets?
Yeah,
I'm
the
up for it.
man was 100% record, 100% undefeated. He's effectively the Beterbiev of betting, isn't he?
Press one. Press one in the chat right now. If Billy Nelson told you to put your mortgage on a bet, would you do it? Press one of you. I would. Billy Nelson.
100%.
I would. If Billy Nelson told me to do a bet, I put my mortgage on it. That's how much I believe in Billy Nelson. To be honest with you, that's how much I believe in him. Right? Should we talk about this light-skinned fool right now? I wouldn't say it to
Yeah,
his
let's
face,
do
but
that.
yeah, we talk about this fool. His allegedly, according to your man Wally Downs Jr., who and he said this like as a certified, this is going to happen basically. It wasn't like, oh, blah blah blah. Like he said, this is happening. Conor Benn's going to be out very very soon, and he's going to be out in Abu Dhabi. And Wally Downs Jr. said that yesterday. He was at the Yarde versus Beterbiev fight. So I'll see if I can get the two up on the screen.
Yeah, you know
But as far
what?
as my word, that
Yeah,
is
the
he
North
said it like
Saudi
that is
guys,
happening. Like Conor
yeah,
Benn
yeah.
is coming out. He is fighting. He's going to be fighting. His next couple fights are going to be in Abu Dhabi, and he will be fighting. Sorry, Riku. Just carry on, please.
Yeah, but look, I guess this is it, right? Isn't there the whole Jake Paul, Tommy Fury card in Abu Dhabi?
I think it is. Do you know what? I'm really bad with my Middle Eastern geography.
Yeah.
I didn't really pass GCSE.
No, actually, is that in Saudi or Abu?
I think you're right. Yeah, I think that's in
I think
Saudi, and this is in
Saudi.
Abu
That's
Dhabi.
Saudi. Yeah, Abu Dhabi. So he'd be fighting in Dubai. What shows would Matchroom put on in Dubai?
Oh, get Sky Nicholson on the card, topping the bill, double main
Yeah.
event.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah, fly around. Eddie can, you know what? Eddie can be the hotel for 2 weeks while she's doing training camp as well.
This was the exact video here, right? So if anybody wants to watch it, this is actually a really good video. But it's Ronnie Downs Jr. I know he's got a bit of flack in the past. Yeah.
Who hasn't?
Huh? Who hasn't? But this is Ronnie Downs Jr. and he is saying in this video he doesn't expect Conor Benn to be licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control. There it was. It was with seconds out, and he is saying that he has heard that Benn will be out, and he will be out in Abu Dhabi. So he will continue to fight, but he won't continue to fight in Britain, which would be a massive contradiction because Conor Benn is on record as saying. I think he's on record as saying he doesn't want to. I think he said he doesn't want to fight in the. I think he said like I don't want to fight again. I said I could have fought under another license or another like governing body or something, but he said I don't want to do that until my name is cleared. Well, if what Wally Downs Jr. is saying is true, which is a big if, he's going to go back on that, Riku. Sorry, carry on.
So, who's the promoter in the Middle East that does the show? I mean, it was Probellum, right? Does Probellum still do shows, or did they stop operating? I know they.
I don't think there is. I don't think there is a Probellum anymore.
I don't think so either. So somebody is doing shows in the Middle East. Let me try and find who it is. Maybe it's S-Jam. Do you think S-Jam? No.
I have no idea. 1 second. I'm going to plug
you
my
know
mic
what?
in.
It might be. Anyways, the reminiscence of MTK might be doing shows in the Middle East.
So what do you think if Conor does fight? If this is right and he fights in Abu Dhabi, how do you think that will look? What do you think about that, and how would you think that looks?
He wouldn't fight on a Matchroom. So I don't think he'd fight on a Matchroom show. I don't think Matchroom would want him to fight on a Matchroom show there. They'll find a way for him to make money while this gets sorted. But he'll probably end up fighting on some other promoters, a Middle East promoter's license in the Middle East, and they'll see that as divorced activity from Matchroom. Because otherwise, people have Matchroom in hot water, doesn't they, as well, with the board? Because how can they be running banned fighters in other countries?
Well, I'm gonna get the link to the thing because according to this, Wally Downs said he thinks that Eddie Hearn has some kind of deal going on in Dubai, and that it will be a Matchroom show.
Okay,
that's what he said. I mean, listen, like I said before, this guy isn't the second coming, but I just thought it was very interesting because the way he said it. I'm gonna try. Here we go. The way he said it, right, in this video was like, it was quite clear like that this was inside information. There's the link in the chat for anybody who wants to watch it, and we'll have to wait and see what we're saying about that. But yeah, carry on, Riku. Would you?
Yeah, I think it would be a bit unfair if he fought on a Matchroom show. For me, the board can't be happy if Matchroom hosting shows in other countries allow him to fight there. Because Matchroom are still licensed by the they obviously sanction a lot of the bouts that the Matchroom fighters do in the UK, and they involved, they all board shows in the UK. So the fact that if they just deciding that somebody without a license will be fighting in another country, yeah, I think they'll find a way, right?
I just with that situation, when you talk about PR and the importance of, because you work in PR, that's the funny thing is, so Riku works in PR, right? So Riku, you should know.
Yeah.
Give me a score out of 10. Do you want to stay for another couple of minutes and we'll do some scores?
Yeah,
right?
let's do a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Give me a score out of 10 for Conor Benn's PR team and how Conor Benn has handled this situation. For me, it's one of the worst I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, so I think if you're thinking about who Conor Benn's trying to influence, right? He's trying to influence, one, the board and the governing bodies, and then the boxing public, who are the people that decide whether they want to watch him or support him. So I think, it's been awful. It's been a car crash. So, it will be a 1. 1, he's managed to piss off everybody that's a decision-making body, right? By being public about it, calling them out, trying to embarrass them or insinuate wrongdoing, right? And the other thing is, I don't think there's many fans that have, he hasn't endeared himself to the fans, and he's trying to play the victim without taking any ownership. And if he gets cleared, if the board were to say tomorrow, you know what, you're cleared to fight, I don't think people are just going to say he's clean. With Dillian White's B sample, it was a bit different, right? There was a process, but Dillian White wasn't calling the board and VADA and everybody else useless. And the problem with all of this Conor Benn's behavior is that everything that he has said and criticized, the testing for, has been all the stuff and all the rhetoric that Eddie Hearn has been banging on for years, is what has made him, take drug testing seriously, and they've been championing it. And remember when he's always said about Al Heyman and everybody else, not proper testing and not taking drug testing seriously. Now he's in a position where one of his fighters have been caught, and he's sort of discrediting this. Unless I think this whole, we're talking about a battleground that's probably just bigger than one fighter and one test. If Conor Benn gets cleared here, then we should just stop testing fighters. Honestly, we should just let everybody juice, because it just shows that, there's no point in even catching anybody, right? Let's not pretend that you can catch somebody. No. Otherwise, there's no point, right?
No, and just for the record, people say to me, Ultra, what would happen if you just banned, you stopped all drug testing and just let the boxers take whatever you want? Well, my opinion is the performances wouldn't differ that much. No, exactly. And they wouldn't differ that much for a fucking reason. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't differ that much for a reason. Let me just say, for me, Riku, listen, it's very simple for Conor Benn. Conor, if you're listening there, listen, it's a very simple fix, Conor. I'm going to give Conor Benn some free game right now. Conor, if you're listening, right, somebody clip this and send this to Conor Benn. Mate, honestly, you can end this situation in 2 seconds flat. All you have to do is release a statement and say, do you know what, right, I didn't intentionally take this substance, but at the same time, I've been irresponsible with what's been in my system. I didn't intentionally take this substance, but I can't expect anybody to believe me for that. All I can say is, I wasn't responsible for what got into my system. This substance got into my system. In the future, I'm going to come back and I'm going to make sure that this substance is never in my system again. Bang. That's all he had to do. Simple as that. Situation shut. Literally, like, Conor, if you're listening, I'm supposed to be a big hater of yours, but actually I'm not, because I idolised your father, because your father comes from Barbados, just like me. Yeah, we both come from the same island, and I grew up watching your father. And when your father got knocked through the ropes by Gerald McGlennon and came back to win, it's one of the moments in boxing that I never forget for the rest of my life. Yeah. So I ain't no Conor Benn hater at all. Conor, if you're listening, it's such a simple fix, mate. You can fix this all in one statement. Apologise, say you've handled it wrong, and say, look, I didn't intentionally take this substance. I can't expect anybody to believe me. I have been irresponsible for what's in my system. I should have been responsible. I should have kept an eye on what was in my system in all times. I didn't. I've paid the price. I'm going to take my 6 months from the BBOC. I'm going to train my ass off, and I'll be back. Please, everybody, forgive me. I won't do it again. Gosh, next week, everybody will be talking about AJ and Jermaine Franklin. It's such a simple fix. But because there's so many idiots involved, yeah? the idiots like Herner involved, idiots like Bellew are getting involved. He's been advised by idiots. I mean, the whole thing has just become an absolute fucking disaster class when it didn't need to be. I could have got him out of that situation in about 30 seconds. Far worse situations have occurred in life. People have got out far worse in boxing. People have got out far worse in real life, mate. The guy's fucking spending thousands on lawyers, yeah? And, you know, it is what it is. Because let me just quickly say this, Riku, right? The bottom line of it is, Conor Benn is trying to convince the public that he's a clean athlete. That's what it's about, right? He wants to convince that's his end goal. To me, he doesn't want to be seen as a filthy athlete, right? That's what it's about, perception, right? That's why you know he's spending all this money on scientists and lawyers and all this kind of shit, right? He cares about the public perception. He doesn't want the public to forever, you know, hold it on him that he's a drug cheat. Well, listen, Conor, there's a very, very simple way to do that, right? There's a very, very simple way to do that and get your point across to the public and appeal to the public, yeah? And get your point across without spending thousands of pounds on lawyers. Didn't need to spend any thousand pounds on lawyers. Didn't need to fucking look into, you know, the scientific proof of whether you can fucking fail a VADA test for clomid from ingesting eggs or eating, tainted punani. Didn't need to do any of that talk. He could have done that. He could have done one interview online with an ID boxing, or even could have got brought in the clean-up man, Kugan Cassius, and see all this Twitter shit that he's doing now, this muppet on Twitter, right? Yeah. Look at all this crap he's coming out with. Look, he's you know, putting up all these stupid photos of himself, and you know, and he's putting up all these stupid videos of him on the pads. And then when he does sort of interact with the fans, and again, I'm making it clear, it's the fans who he's trying to convince, right? I can't find the tweets here. I think he might have deleted them, but he's interacting with the fans, and he's just coming across as so fucking arrogant, you know, and just saying, "Well, do you think I would cheat? Or do you think I would spend all this money on lawyers and stuff if I knew I was cheating and blah blah blah?" Look, see what I mean? All this kind of shit. Look, fuck all that shit, right? Stop getting to these stupid back and forths. Come out, apologise, yeah, for it being in your system. You don't have to apologise for taking it, right? Just apologise for it being in your system. Take the fucking L like a man, like we all have to every day, and we move on, yeah? Sorry, Riku. Sorry for rambling on. Please carry on.
No, I think great points. And I mean, question for the chats here. What does Conor Benn have to do, or what has to happen that you believe that he's innocent? Because I don't think anything can happen, personally, at least from my point of view. Even if the board said, okay, we've now made a mistake, or, you know, WBC says, oh, we've reviewed this document and we don't believe he's guilty, then I think it all just thinks of a fix at that point. It all thinks of, effectively then bullying, using the money and the power to bully these organizations. And we know what's happened before, right? With the, UCAD and, legal suit and everything else. So I think there's nothing that can now happen that I would change my mind. But, there's no further...
Yeah, but he can listen. The bottom line of, in my opinion, Riku, is actually, and chat, press 1 if you agree with this, press 2 if you disagree.
I agree. You know what? I agree with what you said. He should just take responsibility and said, it's my body. I mean, I'm responsible for anything that's in there. Nothing intentionally was taken.
That's it.
Contaminated substances, whatever, happens all the time, right? And
it's all he had to do. And do you know what it is, right? Press 1 if you agree with me. Press 2 if you disagree. Fans don't give a shit about doping in boxing. It's all bollocks. They all pretend to. It's all bullshit. It's a stick they use to beat over the head of fighters. And and you look at the history of boxing, how many fighters have been caught on dope and stuff. And you look at what with Tyson Fury and all this kind of stuff and other fighters. I mean, look, fans don't give a shit about. Do you know when Conor Benn got caught for? When Conor Benn failed a test. I ran a poll on here. We had fucking 700, 800 people in here, right? And I ran a poll and said, do you still want this fight to go ahead? This is when the news was just announced that Conor Benn had failed a test. And 70% of people in that poll said, fuck it, we want the fight to go ahead anyway. Knowing that a fucking 157-pound Chris Eubank Jr. could have got himself in, could have fucking died in the ring against the monster Conor Benn in there, right? People don't give a shit. 70% of them in the poll, right? On the breaking news poll, right? Said, yeah, we want this fight to happen. It was only when people like me and other people started turning around and saying, listen, you have to understand here, this is fucking dangerous, this is wrong. And then people in the fucking boxing media, and then It was only when there was a kind of bit of pushback, then people started to change their opinions and start to understand. But if you actually go back, and that show's on this channel, and you look at it, and you look at the original show that I did, the breaking news show for Conor, Benn fighting a test, 70-60% of people in that chat wanted the fight to go ahead. Because ultimately, people just want to see the fucking fights. So Conor Benn's career won't be over. He'll be absolutely fine, no matter what happens, right? People will forget about this. People are idiots. Make no mistake. You know, we see it. Listen, I'm a Tory, you know, until the cows come home, right? And, you know, it is what it is, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Bad news today, but these idiots will forget about it by tomorrow. Or these idiots will forget about it in a couple of months. Do you know what I mean? And that's why we get the politicians we get, you know, because you forget about it in a couple of months. You forget about it 6 weeks later. This happens, that happens, and then you're on to the next outrage. People just want to get outraged. People don't give a shit about doping boxing. They ain't never been in a fucking ring before. They don't give a shit. People just want something to be outraged about. People just want something to beat someone over the stick with. Tyson Fury and Hughie Fury's careers were absolutely fine. Tyson Fury's plastered all over BT Sports Personality of the fucking Year nomination. You know, going for Christmas #1s, and he's on the couch every morning with exactly. He's on the couch every morning with freaking Holly Willoughby and flipping Philip Schofield. It never hurt his career, and it ain't gonna hurt Conor Benn's career. It's simple as that, mate. Sorry, Riku. So please carry on.
No, I think that's it, to be honest. There's not much more to say.
No?
No?
Okay.
I think we're done.
Please take us out. Take us out.
Yeah, thanks for having me and thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe, rate and review, and I'll be back soon. And thanks for Ultra for producing the show, and couldn't agree more. We don't care about drugs in boxing. Let's just stop testing athletes and pretend it's a clean sport. I don't care personally. Let's not, you know. Maybe we'll get. You know, some of these fighters might develop some knockout power. If they haven't by using drugs already, then there's no hope for them.
I think, just in closing, I think we should test. But if we're going to test, we have to do it properly, and we have to acknowledge the results. Like you said,
exactly.
If we're not going to acknowledge the fucking results, then what's the point? All right, Riku.
All right.
Thank you very much, guys. I'll be on in just a sec. Guys, don't go anywhere because I am out of my say. So I'll come in and chat with you for 10 minutes. So, guys, if you just give me 10 seconds, I will end this stream and start up another stream. So I'll be back in 5 minutes, all right? I'll come and have a chat with you all. So don't go anywhere. Riku, thank you very much, man. And Riku, whenever you want to come back, you do the same again. First show's not easy. It's not easy. It ain't easy. It ain't an easy gig.
It ain't easy being Yeezy. Oh yeah, Yeezy's cancelled these days, but you get what I mean.
All right, mate. Take care of yourselves and each other. I'll be back in 5 minutes, guys. So it is what it is, all right? So if you want to carry on chatting, just give me 5 minutes. I'll start up a stream. See you soon.